Episode 5 opens on a shot that gives us a decent look at Atlas from a distance. A hovering mass of rock and metal, with a sprawling city on top and a dangling undercarriage that serves as the main docking port below it. Notably, our version of Atlas is smaller than the one in canon, because the one in canon is so massive, you could fit the entire state of Texas in it. Now, it only equates to one major metropolitan city, like a New York or Chicago, instead of Neo-Tokyo from Akira, which accounts for like 12 of those. Proportionally, Mantle is much larger and more sprawling, which balances out the discrepancy in the number of elites versus the number of commoners in the setting. Anyway, the camera pulls back to find RWBY, staring out a window marveling at the city. In the background, the rest of Team RWBY are in deep conversation with Junior and Team 32, everyone tentatively celebrating their success in the mines. In fact, we can still see the scuff and battle damage on them, but everyone is in a really good mood. Weiss is the only person to notice the apartness RWBY seems to have from the rest of the group. She walks up behind RWBY, brows raised at her, asking, "Everything okay, RWBY?" With a bittersweet sigh, RWBY replies, "It's so surreal being back here." We cut to outside, where we see they're standing in a hallway of Amity Arena, looking out one of the many windows on its exterior. Back inside, Weiss nudges RWBY's shoulder with her own playfully. "It feels like forever ago." Hard to remember, it hasn't been all that long. RWBY turns to look at Weiss, but over her shoulder sees Penny, chatting animatedly with Ciel. With a sigh, RWBY says, "Yeah." Looking back to the distance, Weiss frowns harder. "You know, we haven't really had time to talk recently. If there's something on your mind..." Across the room, a door leading into the interior of the Coliseum opens. The assembled teams turn to look at it, as do Weiss and RWBY. There's a beat before Blake raises a brow at the dark maw of the corridor and says, "Well, that's not exceedingly ominous." With broad, conspiratorial smiles, Flint and Neon slide to either side of the door and motion inward. Anxious looks are spared at the two and the patiently waiting Ciel and Penny before the rest of the crew step into the darkness. Wordlessly, RWBY turns away from the window, walking into the corridor along with the group, followed by the concerned Weiss. This content and the rest of the content on Celtic Phoenix is brought to you by the wonderful people supporting the channel through Patreon. For just $1 or more, you can gain access to the Tundra Discord server, where you can interact with me and a whole host of my fellow internet colleagues, such as the other members of Team Frostbite and the Team Jacked podcast. Become a part of our regular bad fanfiction nights that happen every Friday night at 10 PM Eastern Standard Time by joining our chat and adding your commentary to the reading. You can also join by becoming a member of the Celtic Phoenix YouTube channel, with the additional bonus of gaining access to a bunch of sweet emoticons during every one of our streams, such as the Team Jacked podcast, which airs every Wednesday at 6 PM Eastern Standard Time. But if either of those are too much for you, you can always subscribe to the channel, enable alerts, like this video, and share it around to all your friends. Thank you all so much for watching, and we now return you to your regularly scheduled fixing. For a brief moment, we're left in the darkness. Then, there's an electrical hum, and the lights of Amity Arena snap to life. Our crew walk out onto the main platform of the arena, where Ironwood stands waiting, with Crow, Winter, and Clover lined up off to the side. Around them, work to modify the arena is already underway, with some gutted stands, light fixtures, and even a missing panel in the floor that's a gaping hole right into open air. Despite this, much of it remains unchanged from how it had been during the fall of Beacon. All of Strike Team 32 fall in line besides Clover, while RWBY Jr. are lined up in front of Ironwood. Tall and proud, Ironwood addresses the group. "It goes without saying that this arena holds significance to all of us. It's only fitting that we should be able to reconvene here, now, when the world needs to be protected the most." Off to the side, Penny bounces excitedly, holding an open scroll, and Winter rests a hand on her shoulder to restrain the motion. Ironwood continues, "The road you traveled from our first meeting hasn't been easy. You fought for your school and your friends at Beacon Academy. You fought for the world and the innocent at Haven Academy, and beyond. You faced down terrors people couldn't even imagine. That's not the behavior of students. It's the behavior of huntsmen and huntresses." Penny skips forward eagerly to stand in front of Ren. She flicks a button on her scroll before moving down the line, doing the same for everyone. One by one, as she does, each of our protagonists gets a notification, and on their scrolls we can clearly see crisp new huntsman licenses. RWBY stares at it, somewhat pleased, but the haze hanging over her is not quite clearing. Looking up to Ironwood, she says with a more determined edge, "We are honored, General." Appearing behind the 7 as if from nowhere, Neon and Penny raise several party poppers in the air and pull the cords to celebrate, making everyone flinch. We use a little camera trickery to carry us off to the stands, where the group are now standing among a collection of hors d'oeuvres, individual cakes, and apparent champagne. Off to the side, Flint plays a little graduation theme on his trumpet quartet, and CL unenthusiastically blows into a party horn. She follows it up by asking, "Is that what you wanted?" And Penny, delighted, replies, "Yes!" CL rolls her eyes and tosses the party horn away. Ironwood smiles, appreciating the notion, but lays out some notes before festivities can get into full swing. "We'll just have to look past your youthful exuberance during the exam. Beacon's graduates have always had free spirits." John looks over at RWBY unamused. "I still can't believe you did that." RWBY smiles sheepishly and shrugs. "I mean, technically the exam was over." Ironwood shakes his head fondly. "I will warn you, that won't always get you out of trouble." RWBY scratches the back of her head with an awkward giggle as Ironwood drops back into his observations. "Usually, Atlas graduates are mentored by a fully realized huntsman, but clearly both of your teams already have one." James gives a glance over to the surprised Crow, who scrambles to shove his scroll away, clearly taking several hundred photos of his graduating nieces in the space of a mere second. Nora glances over to Strike Team 32, led by Clover, and comments, "Oh, so that's why there's 5. Ironwood finishes the thought. Normally it'd be 1 huntsman to 1 team, but an exception can be made in this circumstance. I trust Crow to oversee both teams. Standing more properly, Ironwood looks them over to give final words. Naturally, as new members of the Elysian Huntsmen, you'll be given a generous stipend to repair your equipment and refit yourselves as you see fit." The group turn to look at each other and slowly realize the absolute travesty their clothing and equipment have become after the battle. Yang in particular holds a burned strand of hair between her fingers, face pensive. Neon, off to the side, yells teasingly, "You look like trash!" Ironwood ignores her. In addition, you're all entitled to individual dorm rooms, courtesy of the Atlas military. All 7 look between each other uncomfortably before RWBY sheepishly asks, could we maybe stay together?" Without missing a beat, Ironwood rolls with it. "Or you could stay together in a dorm. I'll have one prepared for each of your teams." High fives ripple through the 7 as Ironwood moves on to finish his speech. "With your licenses, you'll be happy to know the training wheels are coming off. More complicated and dangerous missions, the ones you would have been prevented from seeing, will be available to you. Something tells me that once you've had a chance to catch your breaths, you'll feel right at home." Ending off with another warm smile, he motions to the food around them, which Nora has already snuck away with a plate of snacks for herself. "It may not be the graduation party some of you were probably hoping for back at Beacon, but I hope it'll be enough to mark the occasion. Please, have your fill." The soiree kicks off properly with Penny giddily handing out food and favors, prattling on about this being her first party. In her excitement, she shoves a piece of cake into Nora's mouth, earning laughter from around the room and from Nora herself. Off to the side, CL is staring in horrified shock while Neon is laughing her ass off and Flint is trying to hold his back. CL glares at Neon, quickly putting the pieces together in her head before saying, "Did you tell her?" "Of course you did." Nora begins to chase Penny, and both CL and Ren watch with empty expressions at their partners. Quietly, CL says, "I'm sorry about this." And Ren replies, "It was inevitable." There's a moment of quiet between the two stoics before Ren speaks again. "I like your pistols." To which CL responds with a, "Likewise." Nearby, RWBY and John fly into each other's arms for a bone-shattering hug, happily crying into each other's shoulders.
"We're official!"
Behind them, Weiss is wiping away a tear and looking at a statement on her scroll. "My bank account's back in the black." RWBY pulls back from John, a glimmer growing in her eyes. She begins to shuffle in place excitedly, squeeing,
"Oh, I can't wait! I can finally make all the repairs I need to my baby! And maybe get some other nice stuff on the side too!"
Her team watches her endearingly, only for her to glance their way, an even more manic grin appearing on her face. She zips up to them.
Ooh, I know! I can help you guys fix your gear too! I've actually got some cool ideas for Mirror Master, and Blake, I know Gamble broke, so I had some thoughts on how you could modify Shroud to compensate.
Blake's hesitant voice cuts RWBY's excited rambling off. "Actually, RWBY," she holds her shoulder and sends a cautious glance to Yang. "I was kinda thinking Yang could help me work on my weapon this time around." Yang starts in place, blinking Blake's way before answering, "Oh, yeah, sure." RWBY quickly deflates. "Oh, But Yang is quick to catch it, giving her shoulder a light punch. "Cheer up, Rubes. You can help me fix Ember Celica. I kinda need a new one, and that last fight gave me a few ideas I want to run by you." Again, that puppy-like energy returns to RWBY, who stares teary-eyed up at her sister. "That'll all be easier with another arm, I imagine." The four turn to Ironwood, stepping up to the group. "I won't ask what happened to the first one, but I'll assume you ran it through its paces. The replacement should already be in your new accommodations." Yang's smile softens considerably, the playful mood sombered, though no less pleasant. Thank you, General. I was wondering how to ask people for a hand. Started considering just rocking the new look." She rolls the nub on her arm playfully for emphasis. He dismisses the thanks with a shake of his head. "No need to thank me. Consider it an investment in the future of Remnant." Turning to RWBY, he hands her the same key card she got from Cordovan last season. "As is this." She takes the card hesitantly, excited mood slipping into confusion, anxiety, and regret as she looks down at it. "RWBY, this card has one of the highest clearances in Atlas. It allows access to the Relic Chamber and the Maiden's Quarters. In the event of an emergency, I hope I can trust you to protect her and the relic in my stead." RWBY's fingers tighten around the laminated card, her face neutral and serious. She meets his eyes. "I understand, General. You can trust me." The other three members of the team stare at her with mixed emotions, the knowledge that RWBY has already hidden things from him clearly on their minds. He nods in acknowledgement before turning to Blake. "Miss Belladonna, I also have something I wish to speak with you about." There's a beat as the four stare expectantly up at him, only for him to clarify, "In private, if that's not too much trouble." Understanding dawns on the other three girls, and they glance at Blake. She gives him a confident nod, and the three step away back to the rest of the soiree, though notably, Weiss never stops paying attention and is never too far away. After ensuring they're alone, Blake looks his way. "What is it you wanted to talk about?" Ironwood gives her a sympathetic smile. "Nothing pleasant, unfortunately. Despite Atlas's reputation for uniformity being largely exaggerated, there are some things that cannot be permissed. Wearing the uniform of foreign law enforcement, for example." Blake realizes what he's talking about and looks down at her outfit. "I won't tell you where to allocate your funds that you've been provided, but I would recommend you set a part of it aside to assemble a new wardrobe. There is something to be said of representing where you came from, of being proud of your home, but we can't have you confused for a menagerie guardsman." Pulling at the sleeves of her jacket, Blake is thoughtful as she replies, "No, I understand. I'll get right on it, General." Ironwood nods. "That's all I can ask." He walks past Blake, towards the catering table where Clover is keeping watchful eye on the partygoers. "Didn't your parents give that to you?" Blake jumps as Weiss walks up beside her, eyes narrowed at the now distant Ironwood. Blake's eyes follow, frowning. "They did, but he couldn't know that." Weiss, seeing Blake's frown, takes a breath and starts to walk after Ironwood. "Well, let's just tell him. I'm sure he'll change his..." Weiss has stopped when Blake grabs Weiss's wrist. "Weiss, it's fine." Slowly, Weiss turns, locking eyes with Blake. "But it means something to you, doesn't it?" Blake shakes her head. "I'm not going to get rid of it, but I'm also not going to ignore that I'm not at home anymore." Looking down at the jacket, Blake thumbs at the material fondly. "This outfit has helped me find where I need to be. Maybe now I'm where that is, it's time for a change of pace." Weiss grows pensive at the response, not quite mollified, but not quite dismissing it outright. Blake's arms wrap around Weiss's shoulders, and Weiss stiffens in surprise. "It's okay, Weiss, though I'm glad to know you care." Weiss returns the hug as her face sinks deeper into reflection. Blake is about to speak again to reassure Weiss even more when a loud yell comes from the party behind them. Nora is swaying back and forth, waving a nearly empty champagne bottle and standing on a ramshackle stack of dismantled stadium chairs. She laughs over everyone else, drunkenly singing, "I'm Queen. Ciel, seemingly on her last wit, is pinching her forehead. She eventually yells up, "Valkyrie, these drinks are non-alcoholic! We have minors here! Why would we provide inebriants?" As soon as Ciel says non-alcoholic, Nora sobers up. She doesn't lose her balance so much as she just stops swaying completely and the stack of chairs collapses in on itself. Nora rides it down, gracefully sitting down mid-slide, and cups her chin in her hands with a sigh. You guys are no fun." While Ciel is definitely unimpressed, most of the other partygoers are either amused or outright laughing at Nora's shenanigans. RWBY, who has sat down in the nearby stands by this point, watches warmly, but her mirth is overshadowed by some level of exhaustion. Crow slides up beside her and sits down, giving her a nudge with his elbow. "Big day for you, huh?" RWBY is still lost in thought when she replies, It's definitely a lot to take in. Which part? The finally getting the Atlas part, getting your license part, or the not quite disclosing everything to Ironwood part? RWBY tenses up, but Crow's gaze doesn't become accusatory, it's more concerned than anything. RWBY runs things over in her head, staring down at the ID badge. Everything we've seen, Lionheart, Cordovan, Ozpin, I'm trying to do what's best, but I don't know who we can trust anymore. Crow frowns. You don't feel like you can trust him. Both her and Crow look over at Ironwood, chatting amicably with Ren and Winter. RWBY shakes her head. It's not... He looked so tired. You saw how he looked when we told him we found Ozpin? He's the only person with a plan that might work. Telling him everything might... RWBY trails off, not quite sure how to finish the thought. Crow hums appreciatively. And the relic? RWBY frowns contemplatively. Maybe I am no different from Oz. Seeing the distraught look on her face, he rests a hand on her shoulder. You're not Oz. You're not keeping secrets for yourself. It sounds more like you're protecting him. RWBY looks up to him, a little more confident but still unsettled. Do you think I should tell him? Crow waves the question away with a shake of his head. If it were me, I would, but I'm hardly a good judge at character. But if you're feeling conflicted, well, there's a couple of people I think would be happy to talk to you about it. Crow suddenly shifts their attention to where Blake and Weiss are talking with John. RWBY stares at them, the conflict on her face beginning to still as she mulls over the suggestion. It's then replaced by confusion. Wait, where's Yang? A weight suddenly falls over RWBY and Crow's shoulders as Yang shoves into them from behind. Boo! RWBY is startled, lurching away and flailing her arms to ward Yang away, while Crow just rolls his eyes, reaches up, and pulls Yang into a headlock with almost no effort. She cries out, suddenly partly strangled. No fair! Crow smiles at her, shaking her around a bit in his grip. You're a huntsman now. Everything's fair. The words prompt RWBY to pull out her scroll and look at her official huntsman license, while Yang writhes in Crow's arms. She looks at it almost sardonically. This says I'm a huntsman, but honestly I don't feel like I know much more than I did at Beacon. Crow laughs and releases Yang so she can catch her breath in the seat beside him. That feeling never goes away. He looks between the two girls with a firm smile. Summer would be proud of you two. Both RWBY and Yang smile at him, though the smiles soon slip away. You have to wonder what she'd say. Yang muses, resting her chin on her hand. RWBY alternates looking between the license in her hand and the keycard. Scrunching her eyebrows, she asks, Her last mission, was it another Oz secret? The question makes Crow shift uncomfortably where he sits. I don't know. When she didn't come back, he seemed just as in the dark as me and Ty. Not that we ever got a straight answer out of him. Now, though, I don't know how much stock I would put in that. RWBY and Yang both share in his discomfort, and Yang follows it up by asking, You know, Raven knew Oz was up to something. Do you think that Mom... Crow shakes his head. If she did, she never led on to it, at least not to me. Besides, she wasn't exactly Raven's biggest fan during the falling out. You'd think they'd be more on the same page. The sisters digest his words, and RWBY's face continues to twist in thought. Maybe Mom had a different idea of how to do things. Maybe she found a different way. Though her brow is pinched in distress, something dangerous begins to pierce through it. Hope. What if Mom is still out there, but she can't remember... Crow cuts her off, and though it starts harsh, it simmers into a dull, aged pain. RWBY, that's not a road you want to go down. Trust me. Silence lingers between the three, and Crow, realizing the mood is dead, tries to revitalize it. Whatever she needed to do, I know she did it. She would have pressed on until she did. Like you guys, she was always the best of us. Somber though it may be, some warmth returns to the girls, and Crow opens his arms for an admittedly awkwardly angled hug for the both of them. But they accept it all the same, and the three revel in that moment. Crow caps it by ruffling both of their hairs. Bit of a brat though. But hey, I like brats. Both girls playfully wriggle out of his grasp and slap his hand away while they laugh. The camera dips down, sliding into the ground before dropping out of the bottom of a maintenance tunnel. A shadowy figure walks through the cramped space, carrying a case in one hand and his scroll in the other. Doors that stand in his way, notably locked by digital pads, automatically open after their control panel displays glitch out. After a few short seconds, the last door opens and he emerges out, onto the streets of Mantle. Our first time seeing the streets, we get a good look of Atlas floating in the sky above, the buildings reaching up like fingers to grasp it. Water drizzles down from the buildings, melted snow from the overworked HVAC system serving as ersatz rain. The camera cuts to above to show the calculating gaze of Arthur Watts, having just emerged from what is labeled as an Elysian maintenance tunnel, built into the city's wall. Watts begins to stroll through the night, checking a map on his scroll that is directing him to something. A call from a blank number comes through when he does, and he answers it, though he transfers it over to an earpiece so he can stow it back in his pocket. He doesn't give the other speaker a chance to speak. Is it done? Tyrion's voice carries over the line, frustration absolutely seeping through every word.
Of course it's done.
We cut over to Tyrion in a dark apartment, illuminated only by the road lights outside bleeding through the window. He's covered in blood and pulling a body with one arm while on the phone with the other. A child could have slaughtered everyone in this building and not even broken a sweat. We cut back to Watts, still comfortable in his stride as he crosses a street. If that's the case, perhaps I should look into outsourcing your role in all of this. Certainly children would be more tolerable conversationalists. Tyrion's voice is harsh in return.
Give me a real challenge. None of these people are any fun. All they do is beg for their lives, talk about some integrity bullshit, blah-de-blah. No wonder you wanted them dead. Your ego wouldn't fit in the city if they were still here.
Watts is unaffected by the insult, rounding a corner and approaching an Elysian public safety kiosk. Casually, he opens a maintenance panel and inserts some kind of drive into the access port. His scroll chimes to confirm the connection, and he pulls it out to view the incoming data. If my ego couldn't survive a couple measly reporters, I'd never be able to go anywhere. To begin with, I'd have to consider them human, and even my genius couldn't fathom such a possibility. He sorts through a number of different directories for the local security systems, landing on the cameras. Skimming through, something catches his eye. Oh, fascinating. We cut to his screen, where he enlarges one of the security feeds to show Cinder and Malachite, still cloaked, walking down the streets, and only just being picked up on the camera. Watts looks down at the timestamp for the video. Been here a few weeks, have you? He looks up to the city's skyline and the ominous Rock of Atlas above. And look how little you have to show for it. Typical. Tyrion's voice cackles over the call.
Mutter, what are you muttering about now?
Watts rolls his eyes. A development to keep an eye on, no more, no less. Holding up his scroll, he drags open an overlay and begins to type into it. Though I shall be the only one keeping an eye on it. With one final press of a key, we see the footage of Cinder and Malachite, and see them dissolve in a wave of bubbling pixels. Watts looks up from where he is, right into the nearest camera. He smiles, broad and smug, before bowing. As he does, his form bubbles with pixels as well, before dissolving completely, leaving only an empty street corner. We cut to black and end the episode.